Yo, what is going on, guys? This is the stock talk for tonight, March the 4th, 2021. We just had a huge sell-off in the market after Fed Powell talked about inflation. A lot of people are kind of fearing the liquidity of, market kind of not being too hot. And so we kind of saw a huge sell-off despite this small recovery in the morning. And we're pretty much going to chart out how we're looking at tomorrow the 5th. And going onwards, I'm going to be taking tickers from other people, and overall we're just going to see how we can map out the day for tomorrow. As of right now, I'm essentially fully cash. I do have my share positions, but I'm not really too worried about those. So let's get this thing rolling. Firstly, I did want to go over like IWM, QQQ, and SPY, mainly because those are our main ETFs that we play on a regular basis. And for those, in terms of hourly charts, IWM has a crossover coming soon. It's pretty oversold in terms of RSI. Same with SPY and QQQ. We did come out of RSI oversold. And we have a crossover for SPY almost ready to go. And as for QQQ, we have one pretty much at the crossover. So as of right now, I think we'll have some sort of a small relief bounce going into tomorrow. Obviously with a grain of salt, but I'm kind of being conscious of this potential H pattern that we have, and we could potentially head lower based off of that. A lot of the tech stocks have been super beat up these past couple of days for that reason, so that is something to keep in mind. Notice H right here on Qs, H right here SPY, H right here IWM. So that's just a little something to keep in mind going into tomorrow. So we can either see this crossover event relief bounce, or we'll see this H pattern and we'll head back down lower. That's just my personal thoughts going into this. Like I said before, I'm not a financial advisor. However, I am just going to give my thoughts on what I think the market's going to do today. So yeah, I'm going to be taking tickers as well. So if anyone has anything that you would like me to check out, feel free to send it to me, DM it, type it in the chat, whatever you'd like, and I will get to that. So yeah, that said, I'm going to put up, just kind of common tech names so we can start. So I'll put Apple, Amazon, put Microsoft. And so pretty much it's going to look very similar to what we see on QQQ because these are main stakes in it. That said, Microsoft was fairly strong today, and that was mainly because of it being more of a defensive kind of play when it comes to tech. This is kind of the stock I go to when I don't really know where I want to see tech go. It's a little more resistant to drops than, say, Apple or Amazon. And notice that when the whole market was kind of selling off, we saw Microsoft pretty much pump up like crazy. We do have an H pattern kind of forming, which is something to keep in mind, but we do have a crossover. And if we can break through this and not have this thing go to the downside, we can definitely see Microsoft retest this 230 level. On top of that, you look at Apple and you look at Amazon, exact same patterns here on hourly charts. You have two H's. So again, it just depends on how we see pre-market go and QQQ in general. Because keep in mind, tech has been the one that's getting beat up the most. SPY has, dipped, but it hasn't dipped as bad as QQQ. So it's just something to keep in mind. That said, we do have two H's here. So if we do end up going lower, say QQQ falls below 300, we'll probably see these tech stocks continue to plummet downwards. Yeah, here's Tesla. So Tesla has been massively beat up along with that H pattern. It tried to have that kind of relief play going into the morning. Notice we tried to cross over, but we failed to, and we headed back downwards. We bottomed out at 600, and even in after hours, we're back at 600 with some news. So it's definitely kind of a strange play. I think if it falls below 600, we'll probably see this and continue to go lower, mainly because of just overall price action on the stock. I would be very hesitant to take a long position on Tesla unless I'm buying shares. Otherwise, I wouldn't take a call position on Tesla right now. That's for sure. It's a little too oversold for me, and overall, it's just not looking too good.
You want to look at some banks, GS, JP Morgan?
Yeah, sure. I'll look at some financials. So here's Goldman Sachs and here's JP Morgan. JP Morgan, in my opinion, has been super strong recently. It's currently hanging on the 1 hour 200 SMA line, and we bounced there along with having a reversal to the upside. So if tomorrow we can cancel this H pattern, I definitely think we can see financials kind of bounce here. So I'll even pull up XLF, which is SPY but finance. And so you know, you kind of look at Goldman Sachs. You also have that reversal to the upside, but it is a little more sold off into the after hours. Again, everyone's kind of forming this H pattern, so it's more a matter of can we see a bounce in pre-market to kind of negate this thing. Otherwise, we're going to continue heading down lower going into tomorrow, and we'll see majority of stocks fall below 200 SMA. You can see right here, XLF is also below 200 SMA on an hourly chart, and then in terms of 4-hour charts, we still have a long ways down. So again, something to keep in mind if we do confirm this H pattern for the majority of stocks, we have a long ways downwards into, you know, the coming weeks with this correction territory type play.
The market sentiment with the stimmy, is it going to help or not?
Well, we kind of had that stimulus news come out, and the market did initially bounce. However, when Fed Powell came out and talked about inflation, it did definitely scare a lot of people, along with watching bonds kind of increase, along with overall kind of liquidity dropping in the market. So as a lot of people sold and moved into bonds, the market, you know, will obviously slide for that reason. And then having Powell come out and kind of talk about how we're printing a lot of money. Keep in mind, 40% of all money printed in the United States has been in the span of like a year and a half now. So definitely a worry, but I feel like it might have been a little blown up, and that definitely scared off a lot of investors. The current sentiment, I would say right now, is 100% fear. So let's see, what do we got here?
Hey, can you take a look at, I know we're back on tech, can you take a look at NVIDIA?
NVDA, someone asked for CCIV. So NVIDIA has been pounded recently. And we have a crossover in terms of a 4-hour chart with a wide open MACD. We are heavily oversold in terms of RSI. But with an open MACD, I think we could just continue sliding, especially with the market kind of just giving up a lot of room. I think we're at September levels for a lot of these stocks. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But I think out of the majority of tech stocks, like NVIDIA is just getting completely ripped apart. And it's kind of a weird play here because I'm not sure how much lower we can go with it. But with an open MACD, it's a little difficult to take a long position on it right now, at least.
Look at the hourly, they got a pretty nice.
They even have they have an H going into hourly as well. So, you know, maybe below 480, I would consider a short on it.
Tell me if you like something real quick. So one thing I was looking at too is you can't be too biased. You know what I mean? You have to go in with a little bit of optimism. So I'm thinking even if we gap up somehow magically, NVIDIA can open above. I'm thinking maybe 500, maybe 502. Grab some calls, maybe up to like 510.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like right above those SMAs right there.
Yeah, I could definitely see a play like that. You just need to have this crossover happen, in my opinion. You know, kind of a crossover and coming out of oversold play. But we would need to cancel this H pattern first. I would say maybe above like maybe above this 9 SMA right here on hourly, we can definitely consider a long. But until then, I'm not considering a long. Someone asked for CCIV. We did have a ping to the upside in after hours, or like going into after hours, 23.3. After hours is currently 22.9. What that means pretty much is that we're kind of seeing a change in trend happen. My guess, though, I mean, we still have this H right here, and we are trying to round out a bottom here, but we still haven't crossed over fully. We are in the oversold for RSI, but I'm going to be a little more patient for CCIV. Maybe above 25, I'll consider it. And then someone asked for Bank of America. Bank of America has a kind of, it almost looks like a cup and handle pattern, but we are trying to cross over down here, and we are relatively neutral for RSI, so it could be either way. My guess is kind of being more defensive. We'll probably see more plays into financial sectors going into, the coming weeks. Let's see what we got. Can I do FUBO? FUBO has been getting shredded apart. So FUBO, I mean, it's just a heavy downtrend. I can't really tell you much about this other than hourly is trying to cross over. We were definitely oversold. We had a ping to the upside at 29.67, and we're up a little bit in after hours. I would personally wait just a little bit, maybe for this thing to get back above 32 to take it personally. So you can maybe try to take this as like some really effed up inverse head and shoulders, but I personally would not hop into this thing right now, at least. Can I look at AMD? Sure. AMD has also been just getting pounded ever since, I believe it was Intel's event, kind of set this downtrend for them. And AMD has just been getting completely smashed recently. Unless you're taking this thing, like, short, I would not consider a long on this. Maybe if you're buying shares, but otherwise, AMD just does not look like it has any room to the upside, at least right now. We are super oversold, but MACD just won't close to the upside. So for me, at least personally, I wouldn't consider this thing to go up, at least for right now. Can I look at AVXL? AVXL. I don't even know what this thing is, but sure. This stock also, again, you have that H pattern. It's kind of just following with the market. You have a massive open MACD. I would personally not take this thing long unless I saw it above 13, which is 200 SMA on the hourly, and for the MACD to be closed up. Otherwise, I don't see this thing going up, at least for right now, because we do have that H pattern. GUSH, GUSH. Again, I don't really know what these tickers are, but we kind of have those H patterns kind of forming here. GUSH was up 6% or almost 7% today. We have a relatively bullish RSI. However, we do have MACD trying to cross to the downside. So my guess is we start forming this H on GUSH, and we maybe head down to 20 or 50 SMA going into these next couple of days. Can I look at Square? Sure. Square has been getting absolutely smashed. Also an H pattern. We have a crossover that happened on the 2nd, so 2 days ago, and since then we've seen this thing drop about 40 points. We've pinged a reversal to the downside, and it just has not head up. I would look for a double bottom here, maybe at 210. Otherwise, I'll take the H down at 200. Keep in mind that the majority of stocks are in heavily oversold territory for RSI. Can I look at FSR? Fisker, I mean, this thing's just getting absolutely destroyed. Kind of similar to what we're seeing on Tesla and on NIO. But when you look at Fisker, in terms of this 4-hour chart, it's just a massive head and shoulders. I would not be surprised if we saw this thing at 17.5 pretty soon. It still has a decent amount of room to the downside on RSI, and we have a crossover on MACD. So definitely something to keep in mind. I would say 17.5 would be my profit target on Fisker.
Hey, Art, how do you feel about GameStop?
Yeah, I don't know about GameStop. Let's see. GameStop was up today.
Well, hear me out, bro. Above 150. Tell me that don't look good.
Above 150. I mean, I'm not really trading these kinds of stocks, but we do have a crossover, bullish RSI. But we do have a reversal to the downside at 135 that posted in after hours. So that's something to keep in mind. And it is down a little bit in after hours. So, I mean, overall, I personally am not going to be trading a stock like GameStop because it's just a little too volatile for my taste, at least. And also the premiums are a little too high, in my opinion. However, you might have a case for a bull flag here, but it is definitely kind of with a grain of salt since you see these huge wicks right here. Can I do Apple again? Sure. And can I do OCGN? So here's Apple again. We have that H pattern still kind of forming here. I would wait for MACD to cross back to the upside if I were to consider a long play. Otherwise, it's not really something I would consider for right now. Basically, H pattern, if it falls back below 118, I would take it short back maybe down to 115. I just don't know how much lower we can see Apple go. But that said, if the market's going to continue to slide, I will play the trend. And then OCGN also has that huge H pattern. MACD is trying to cross back to the upside. We have a relatively bearish RSI. I would kind of just wait for that H pattern to confirm or for us to double bottom at maybe 8.35.
What 3 confirmations do you suggest to go get into leaps?
For leaps, what are my confirmations? So we use SPY as an example here. So when it comes to leaps, I like looking at daily charts and I like looking at maybe like 4-hour charts. In terms of a daily chart, I mean, SPY looks really terrible for a leap, but what I'm looking for like a MACD cross. So for example, right here at, what is this, maybe like 335, just in this case of hindsight, but in this example, we have a crossover and we see a relatively neutral RSI. So once we see this RSI go from bearish to bullish or from neutral to bullish, that is my second kind of indicator to the upside. And also notice how we broke above the majority of SMA lines right here from this 335 to 340 area. That's like my last confirmation to the upside. So that's something to keep in mind when I at least go for looking into a play. And with that said, that's how I would consider a leap. Also, a way you would do that is, say you take like whole numbers. So for example, 330 SPY and maybe 340. You would kind of look at how the stock kind of reacts to that price level, and you would see how it reacts to the kind of that next leg upwards. And depending on if you can break those levels, that would be your entry or exit, depending on if you're doing a put or a call leap. Can I do Facebook and Boeing? Sure. So Facebook was relatively strong in comparison to everyone else today in the market. When everything was sliding, Facebook held its levels pretty well. We did ping a reversal to the upside right in the morning, and then right back down to the downside with a possible reversal. We do still kind of have that H, but with this long wick downwards, we did kind of hold on to this 255 level, which I do like. However, we have a crossover potentially happening here on MACD, and RSI is relatively neutral. So Facebook's going to be one of those kinds of plays that if the entire market's red, you would take this as a put. But if the market's green, a put position wouldn't be the smartest move. And then for Boeing, again, kind of holding onto its weight pretty well here. I personally think we're seeing a rounding bottom. We have a crossover in terms of a daily chart, and it has not crossed back to the downside, and it's relatively bullish in terms of RSI. We had a reversal at 198, and it hasn't posted a downwards reversal. So overall, I think Boeing is relatively strong, except for the fact that it's down $5 in after hours. But with that in mind, it is definitely looking like an inverse head and shoulders, so I do like it. Let's see, what else do we have? Palantir. I'm long on Palantir. I actually have 1,500 shares. I am a little red on them because of where I bought. That said, though, I do like it in terms of long term, because I think above 29 we can definitely see Palantir. We're not even 29 anymore, at 26. Above 26 we can definitely see this thing run up to $29. We had a possible reversal to the upside, and overall I think it has this like little inverse head and shoulders forming.
But I say it might be an inverse head and shoulders if you zoom out a little bit. Well, yeah, you did 4 hour, I guess too. The hourly looked a little bit better, but it looked like inverse head and shoulders as well.
Yeah, I definitely like Palantir to the upside, especially with that after hours news that we saw yesterday with Kathy buying up some shares. I'm in 1,500 shares personally, so I do have a vested interest in the upside of Palantir. But that said, I would need to see this thing above 26 if I want to take an options play on it.
Now, one quick thing too. I don't know how many people here are kind of newer. So these lines, right? You got like the red line there, and you got the blue line. So why are you setting those as like entries or exits, or like why are they important?
So these colored lines that I have on my graph here on my chart, these are the moving averages. So for example, the red line is my 200-day moving average, and it's the average price that the stock's been at for the past 200 days. And so basically I would use this as a entry or exit depending on what kind of position I'm taking, mainly because I want to use this as a support or resistance line or a floor or ceiling. And so when I see that we're holding on to a level, for example, say Boeing right here on a daily is hanging on to this 9-day moving average, and it bounced. That means that that's kind of our floor, and that would be a decent entry for a position to the upside, as we would kind of see that act as a place where people are buying shares. So say I enter at 220, if it falls below there, I would consider that my stop loss. And that's just kind of a simple and rudimentary way of setting a price level for you to enter or exit at. I also just use simple whole numbers. So 220 would be my entry, and say 225 is my exit. And then say maybe 218 is my stop loss.
And then one other question too. So you gave an example like what your entry would be, what your exit would be. So ideally in that example, like what kind of strike would you pick? You pick out of the money, in the money, at the money?
When it comes to choosing an option for, say, for example, Palantir is at 24.73, and I think it's going to go to maybe 30 in the span of a couple of weeks, or maybe say this week. Again, in this example, this isn't what I think right now, obviously, but I would be taking, say, $22 or $23 strike, and I would be taking 3 to 4 weeks out. That way I'm limiting my risk while also having exposure into this play and being able to limit my downside because of the in-the-money status of my play. So why you would do that instead of taking, say, at the money or out of the money versus a in the money is just because of the theta that you'd be taking in case the play doesn't immediately go in your favor. Or why you're taking a longer expiry is so you can give yourself that extra insurance on your play. So if it does go against you, you do have time for it to turn around and confirm to your due diligence.
You have somewhere in the server here what your templates are? Do you have time to go over them?
That should be under the announcements tab. I think it's around August. You should be able to see my trading setup. Otherwise, you can just see the actual thing right here. It shows up. I don't know what the resolution is on my stream, but it should be 1080p. And you're able to see.
I see it. Yeah, there's so many damn
There's so many lines, yeah.
tools. Yeah, so many tools on the thing. When you look at it, the studies, I don't know which one to pick. So
Yeah, so the main ones that I use are RSI and MACD. I'm kind of phasing out CCI as I realized that with the market recently, it's a little more, it's not really working as well as it used to. So I'm mainly using RSI and CCI along with these custom indicator sets that I have, like the bottom line right here. And pretty much what you want to do with this is whenever it hits 0, you take a position to the upside, and whenever it hits 3, you take a position to the downside.
How accurate is that?
This works mainly for swing plays.
Yeah, so okay. So I could take a 4-week, 6-week out, or
Yeah,
2
you're looking at like a multiple weeks, so maybe like 3-4 weeks, versus the performance on a day trade wouldn't be as
day trade
as
is
high.
hard.
Yeah, a day trade it
money.
lags a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be happy 10% or 15% swing plays. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's something you can definitely check out. That's under the announcements tab for August. You'll be able to find this indicator and how to add it into your Thinkorswim. Keep in mind it is made for Thinkorswim, not for stuff like E-Trade or not sure, other platforms.
Yep.
So that's definitely something you can check out. And then in terms of other plays I use, other tools I use the 9, 20, 50, and 200-day moving averages. These are simple moving averages, not exponential moving averages. It's kind of just a pick your flavor kind of thing. I don't really see much of a difference personally between the two, but that's just me personally. And yeah. So if anyone has any other questions for me, just general trading questions or tickers that you'd like me to check out, feel free to either just type it in the chat or DM me. I think we went over a lot. Actually, that was fairly quick. But
I got one more.
oh, what's up? Walmart. So I believe they dipped pretty hard because of their earnings recently, but Walmart has just been on this pretty steady downtrend since then. We did have a crossover, but we do have this H pattern kind of forming. So if it does fall below 126, I would be taking a short position on Walmart. It is super bearish in RSI. We did come out of oversold. However, it did start forming that same H on RSI. So I would not be surprised if we started heading even lower below 126. In terms of a leap, though, I mean, you're getting a great value for the stock, at least right now.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Even if they went back up to, let me see here.
Because we're currently looking, we're getting pretty close to like June of last year levels. And so that's definitely something to consider with Walmart. And then in terms of just overall value, I think it's a great, just like long-term hold, because I personally own shares. So that, again, small bias there.
Yeah, I'll probably get into maybe 124 and then I'll scoop. Because even if they bounce back to 140 over the next 6-7 months, I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, that's again, yeah, it's everything is kind of on discount, so I've been kind of shopping a little bit recently for just like long-term holds. Today my stock portfolio was just a roller coaster of emotions. I logged on, I was down like $20,000 on my stock portfolio. I felt like I was in a hurl, and I realized these are stocks, and I just kind of hold them for a while. So yeah. It is a little disappointing to see the majority of some of the profits go away on it, but at the end of the day, I was still up like I was still up like 2,000 overall. What are your thought processes you take before entering an options day trade? Okay, so I'll pull up my little checklist. Hold on one second. So I have a checklist when it comes to actually entering an options play, because I definitely feel like you need to have a setup for what you're doing. Definitely something to consider when it comes to taking a trade is that, why am I entering it? Where do I plan on exiting? Let me just take this off my screen, sorry. So pretty much, why am I entering? Why am I exiting? Where am I exiting? Where do I plan on stopping out? Where do I plan on taking profit? What is the indicator that I'm basing my trade off of? Do I have confirmation from all of my indicators? Am I taking this trade from emotion, or did I do due diligence behind this trade? And overall, why am I taking this trade, say, over holding cash or taking something else? So, I mean, overall, what you want to do is, simply put, kind of do a mental check as to why you're taking a trade. Because I feel like a lot of people kind of enter a trade just off of emotion or out of boredom. And that's the quickest way you can lose money in the market. And that's what market makers are kind of waiting for you to do. And that's where you're buying those, very close expiry, out of the money contracts, because you kind of just want to enter something to see what happens. And that's where you can very quickly lose your money. I can't seem to find that little checklist that I had. That's a little annoying. But
what's the bottom indicator?
The bottom indicator. This is that custom indicator. It just shows us share Sungflex because that's the guy who coded the actual thing itself. But you can kind of just name it whatever. We called it the gold line, or just overall reversal indicator. But yeah, what I would do is overall just kind of run through a mental checklist as to why you're entering a trade. I also don't enter very many trades in a day because I feel like the quality of the trades you're taking diminishes the further into the day you're going. So something to consider as well as you're going into the day. I know I could be taking multiple trades a day, but the quality of my trades is going to continue to diminish as I do not have the same amount of research that I put in the night before versus what I did, say, in the morning going into, say, this Sunday or nightly watch list. And I'm kind of stalling a little bit while I find the checklist here, but yeah. Overall, just make sure you're taking the correct course of action before you hop into a play. If you don't really know what you're doing, don't take a position. Take the time to be prepared for a play.
Hey, one last question, brother. So what's your top watch for tomorrow, if you have one? Obviously I know pre-market plays a lot of into the decision. So, but as of right now, what's your favorite place tomorrow?
So as of right now, I'm a little on the fence about taking Facebook or taking a QQQ. But I'm currently just waiting to see how NQ does because we are seeing, again, that pre-market slide. Although we did catch the majority of it back. So notice right here, we did make a new low in pre-market. However, we do have that hourly crossover that I was just talking about. And if we can have this thing confirmed to the upside, so say we come out of oversold and we have this crossover event, I think that we can see, NASDAQ and SPY kind of head back up maybe to this 12.75 area. And we can see just a little bit of a recovery from today because today was definitely a red day. So overall, what I would do is kind of sit on the fence, do a little bit of hand sitting. I'm currently majority cash, but I'm looking at Facebook for a recovery play since it was the strongest of the bunch today, and I'm looking at QQQ for a bounce play. So that's currently, as of right now, what I'm looking at in terms of my main watch for tonight going into tomorrow.
You forgot to mention Tesla when you watched this, right?
I mentioned it, I think.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Why would you use a 5-minute chart versus an hour for a trade when the hourly is the one painting the picture? I don't use 5-minute when it comes to taking a trade unless it's a scalp. I use an hourly chart mainly for getting an idea of what I'm going to be doing for this next couple of hours. So when I see a crossover on hourly NQ, I could expect the trend to be up for the next couple of hours. And then I'm watching the 5-minute chart to kind of get an idea of where I can see the stock go during that little time span of those couple hours that we see the trend to the upside. So I hope that one's able to help you out. Can I check out SPY? I already did SPY, but here it is again. So SPY is actually recovering pretty well in after hours. One thing is when I noticed this daily chart, we do kind of have a head and shoulders kind of forming. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did bounce a little bit and then we headed back down temporarily going into, you know, these next couple of days. We maybe bounce and then fall back downwards. But as of right now, I think we do kind of see a small recovery come from the market.
Do you have any support lines on that or not really?
For SPY?
Yeah.
So for SPY, I'm using those simple moving averages, and notice we did fall below every single one. So typically we are bouncing around this 50-day moving average. Notice we bounce right here, and I can do the same thing for QQQ. We bounce on that daily a couple of times actually. So around this, we have that gravity effect. We're able to stay above it. We bounce, and we fell below it. So if we do continue to head lower, I would not be surprised if we hit like 284, for example, on QQQ. I don't think we'll go back down to 350 for SPY, personally speaking at least. But if we're seeing tech slide, we'll definitely see like a 284 kind of mark for QQQ, mainly because it is a lot more volatile than, say, SPY, which holds a lot of finance. And then I did end up finding my checklist for options. So let me see if I can put this thing on the screen really quick for you guys. So this is the checklist right here. I am somewhat familiar with the stock or ETF I am currently trading or analyzing. Again, this is why I don't do penny stocks. So basically, stuff that I know: Microsoft, Apple, SPY, QQQ, things I'm familiar with. That way I'm not coming into a trade blind. Price is showing continuation or reversal. For my sake, that's MACD, RSI, and SMA, you know, kind of bundling together for confirmation. Step 2, choosing an option contract to enter, right? Not too close in expiry. Obviously, you know, you don't want something to go against you and then you take 30% in theta. Strike price is not too close, too far out of the money. Obviously, again, you don't want to be taking these risky contracts when you can easily just buy in the money or at the money, which can save you a lot of headache in the long run. There is enough open interest and volume. You're taking out these plays that are more liquid. That's why I like trading SPY, QQQ, Apple, because you're easily able to get in and out in comparison to, say, Shopify, which has a very big spread because of its lower open interest. Implied volatility is not too high. Again, this is, are my contracts too expensive because of current implied volatility? So that's IV, and that's where you can see contracts lose value despite the stock being up. Theta is not too high compared to the contract premium. Again, this comes with taking out of the money and really close expiry. So you don't want to be taking these kinds of plays because theta will take the majority of the money you're trying to make. The contract is not worth more than 10% of my portfolio. Obviously, you know, put in what you're willing to risk. However, be smart with your money, obviously. And then entering and exiting a trade, I am not emotionally attached to the stock or ETF. This is not an emotional trade. You're in it to make money. Know where you're exiting, know where you're entering, because you need to have a game plan before you enter. Otherwise, you're gambling at that point. I'm entering in overbought or oversold because I think there's a reversal. So again, if the indicators are starting to go against you, don't hold the position because you hope it's going to turn around. Just sell out and enter some other time and follow through with your exit strategy. that's where you're very quickly going to get burned if you start hoping that the play goes in your favor. Again, you should be following your rule set, otherwise you're gambling. And that's just the overall checklist for entering an options trade, and really just a trade in general. And I hope that helps a lot of you guys, because it really takes you need to have a system when it comes to trading. Otherwise, you're going to very quickly burn through your cash, and you're going to see a very quickly red PL if you don't follow a rule set. Because remember, if you have a set of rules, if you have a system, you are more easily able to enter and exit trades without emotion, and that's how you can be more consistent. Let's see.
Awesome.
Can I look at ARC? Sure. No, it's not even going to load. Okay. Can I look at SOS? Sure. Or maybe it's ARC like that. My bad. So ARC also has that H pattern on hourly, and it's trying to cross over. It's super oversold. I would wait to see if it double bottoms 114. If not, I would consider it for a short play with the H. And then SOS, I've never seen this stock in my life, so give me a second. We do have a reversal to the downside. It did have the H, and notice it broke even further down below this double bottom at 6.5. So I don't know how much lower this thing can go, personally, but it does kind of look like a head and shoulders, so I wouldn't be surprised if it headed even lower. Does anyone have any other questions, just in general kind of trading questions, other tickers you'd like me to check out? Cool. Alrighty, so that's going to conclude tonight's watch list and just overall trade chat. I do plan on doing this more often so I can, again, upload to YouTube. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like. That's just Arts Trading. And yeah, we're going to be watching the market. Obviously, tomorrow we're live, and I'm going to be looking at a possible reversal in the market. And on top of that, I do want to make sure that everyone does fully understand that you need to have risk management in place when it comes to trading, because that is how you can save your capital for chances to buy when everything's on sale, like how it currently is. I do have a link in the description for the people who are just watching the video itself for my room. Feel free to join if you'd like. It's free. So yeah, that said, I will be concluding this live stream tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you later.